everybody, what's up? Dunbar Snack Bar here with Let's Talk Baseball. We got the next episode. Of course, we're going to have some MLB 2K11 going in the background. But this episode is special, especially for you fans of the Yankees. I have Travis Goldman on the show with me here. He is the manager of PinstripeAlley.com. How you doing, man? Tell us about yourself. Tell us about PinstripeAlley.com, too.
Well, I've been a Yankee fan my whole life. I grew up in New York. I live in Philly now. But I started writing about the Yankees back in 2006, just my own personal little blog, and then I did that for maybe 2 years probably, and then I joined Pinstripe Alley in August of 2008, and then became a manager, I think, in early 2009, and have been doing that ever since, and then it's worked out rather well. You know, there were a couple of blogs that actually wanted me to join them, and it was just SBN that got back to me first, and that's why I chose them. So it was pretty fortuitous because the other one, I believe, is out of business now. So I was lucky in regards to that. And we, you know, as far as Pinstripe Alley currently goes, I think we're growing. We've grown a lot since in the past couple of years, and I think we have a great writing staff right now, and I look forward to a lot more. I look forward to this season.
Now, I think this is a great question to ask anybody who is a fan of baseball, but how did you become a fan of your team, specifically, of course, the Yankees?
Well, I grew up in the Bronx, actually, so I grew up probably about 6 miles as the crow flies to Yankee Stadium. I used to go there a lot growing up. My dad was basically just a casual Yankee fan. He got all jaded growing up by free agency when that started. But I've grown up with that my whole life, so it doesn't have the same effect on me than it did on him. So it's basically a combination of family, location, things like that, you know.
All right, well, let's get down to it here. Now, for most of the offseason, the Yankees have been super quiet, and then we hear not too long ago that the Yankees are taking part in a 4-person trade. They get rid of Jesus Montero, take him to the Seattle Mariners, and in return, get right-handed pitcher Michael Pineda. And then we go and we hear that they go out and get another pitcher in Hiroki Kuroda. Now, he played for the Dodgers last year, for those of you who don't know. But, Travis, how do you feel about all of this, what's going on? I mean, how much do you think that this is going to impact the team? And one thing I wanted to know outside of that is, are there other transactions that you want to see the Yankees make this year?
Okay, I'll start at the end if you don't mind. I would love to see them trade A.J. Burnett. I think every fan has that sentiment. He's outside of 2009. He's been kind of a disaster. He has the highest ERA for any Yankee starter, I think, in history, for any pitcher who's pitched more than 150 innings in a season. You know, he's owed a lot of money, though, so it's going to be tough to trade him. He has 2 years left on his contract. But considering, you know, there have been teams, say, who took Vernon Wells and Alex Rios, you know, you just have to be a little lucky and maybe throw in some of the money for him, maybe a prospect. But I'd just like to get rid of him because we have better options right now. You know, I mean, he's maybe the 7th starter right now, and I don't think he'd like a move to the bullpen, and who knows how he'd even fare there. I don't know about that. So I'd like to see them make that move. Anyway, and then going back to Kuroda, I really like the Kuroda signing. He's been a really solid pitcher with the Dodgers all these years. I mean, it might be a little tough for him to adjust to Yankee Stadium from Dodger Stadium and facing DHs instead of pitchers, but I think he can do it. He gets ground balls. He has good control. And it's only for 1 year, so if he's terrible, you know, you don't have to worry about it like you do with, say, an A.J. Burnett. And then going back to Michael Pineda, it was really, really surprising to see that. In hindsight, it makes sense. Yankees must have felt like they didn't have a spot for Montero long term because they either didn't like his catching or first base is locked up by Mark Teixeira for another 5 years. So they felt they'd rather, they could get a good young starter, which Pineda is, with the potential to be an ace. And unfortunately, we have to give up Montero. But, you have to give up something to get something. I mean, I'm excited about Pineda, upset to lose Montero. Some of us have followed him since he was 16 years old. He was just signed by the Yankees out of Venezuela. But, we're starting to come to grips to it, and it's going to be a real interesting season. I think he could, Pineda could. I think one of these teams, even though it looks fair right now, I think one of the teams a few years down the road will deeply regret the trade. I don't know who that will be, but I do think that this trade will end up favoring one team in a big way.
Right on. Totally agree with you with a bunch of that. Now, I know you kind of mentioned earlier that you're excited about this next season. I am too. So are a lot of the fans that are on the show. Now, how do you think the Yankees are going to do? I mean, do you think they're going to win the AL East?
Well, even before all this stuff this weekend happened, I would have picked them to win the division again. I mean, they did happen to win the division by 6 games with the best record in the American League last season, even though Freddie Garcia and Bartolo Colon pitched over 300 innings for them. That was before, and Jesus Montero only played a month of ball. Now A-Rod seems to be healthy. Who knows for sure? No, we don't have to have Jorge Posada. The big black hole at the DH spot. That was just a disaster last year. And we add 2, anywhere from solid to great starters. And hopefully, we might get Jabba Chamberlain back around the All-Star break. So I think, but potentially we're talking about 100 wins. So I think, they've got the division pretty well. I mean, as far as the other teams go, the Red Sox have barely done anything. They lost John Papelbon. They signed Andrew Bailey. That's basically 6 and 1/2 dozen in the other. And the Rays haven't really done anything. They're virtually the same team. Looks like about the Yankees on top. And after that, I'll go with the Rays for the wild card again, like last year.
All right, so earlier this year, Bobby Valentine, manager of the Boston Red Sox, went out and said that he straight up hates the Yankees. Like, he doesn't even want to waste time talking about the Yankees. Now, I thought that this was kind of good to hear, because if you're a Red Sox fan, that's the kind of mentality you want your manager to have. And as a Red Sox player, you also want to have your manager say that too. Because if you kind of go out and you just play like it's any other game, going up against the Yankees, you're probably going to lose. I mean, the Yankees field a good team year in and year out. So, I mean, I thought that was a good thing to hear him say, But what did you as a Yankees fan take out of that when he straight up says, I hate the Yankees?
I think it'll be fun to finally hate the Red Sox manager again. Terry Francona he was a real good manager, and just as much he was a good guy. I mean, there was nothing to hate about him. He seemed like a really nice person. And now they bring in, of course, the guy who famously disguised himself in the Mets bullpen, dugout, and he's been talking. It seems like he's been talking about nothing but the Yankees since becoming the Red Sox manager. He had to comment on the moves they made this weekend. I think it's going to be fun. I think the rivalry has lost a bit of spice the last few years, partly because they play so often, but also because the players. It's not like it was 5 or more years ago when the players didn't seem to like each other. It's lost some of that. But with Bobby V, you never know what you're going to get. I do think the Red Sox, though, are going to regret signing him. I think it's hilarious that he's their manager. But I'm just going to enjoy watching it sort of dissolve, kind of like it did last year. I think that's going to happen again. I think Bobby V in that town, with that kind of spotlight on him, I don't think it's a good idea. So I'll put it that way. Yeah.
That's awesome. Now, how do you feel about all the Yankee haters that are out there, though?
Oh, well, I know the only reason... I mean, no one would hate the Yankees if they were a bad team. No one hates the Pirates. No one hates back in the day, the Expos, the Yankees were a bad team. No one hate them. So I understand that comes with the territory. The good teams get hated. The bad teams don't, and that's fine. I mean, the Yankees, I think, have more fans and more haters than any team in the country. But that's okay. They say any publicity is good publicity.
Now, you mentioned A-Rod just a little bit ago, and I kind of wanted to go back to that real quick. Now, of course, over the offseason, he goes out to Germany, gets this experimental treatment on his knees during the offseason, and a lot of people are worried, and I think rightfully so, because a lot of people are saying, if he had to go to Germany to get this experimental treatment, does that mean things are so bad that he kind of knows that the normal treatment that he would go through is not going to work? I mean, are you concerned about A-Rod's health for this season and also the future?
Yes, to say the least. He didn't even play in 100 games last year. He signed for 6 more seasons. It's just an insane contract he has. Hopefully, this treatment he had over in Europe will help him. Who knows? I mean, it seemed to help Kobe Bryant enough for him to recommend it. And you just have to hope. I think if he stays healthy, he'll still be a productive player, not the MVP contender he was a few years back. But I think he'll still be a quality player. But obviously the question is health. I don't have a lot of confidence that he will stay healthy. I don't see him playing in more than 140. I think 140 games is the max this year. And by the end of the contract, we'll be lucky to be getting 100 games out of him each season. So I don't think it looks good.
Okay, so put yourself in the front office of the Los Angeles Angels. All right, so you just signed Albert Pujols. Well, I guess I shouldn't say you just signed, but you sign Albert Pujols here, and you see what's going on with A-Rod. Are you kind of worried a little bit, and do you think we're going to see the same thing with Albert Pujols that we're seeing with A-Rod right now?
If I was an Angels fan, yes, I'd definitely be concerned about the Pujols deal. Not the least of which is that he's coming off the worst year of his career, and they just signed him to a decade-long contract. So they have to really hope that it was just a down year in 2011, and that's all it was, and not the start or a furthering of his decline, which he's done for the last few years. I mean, he still had a very good year, but it's not Pujolsian, for lack of a better term. It's scary to have a player signed to a 10-year contract, knowing that there's nothing you can do. If they're terrible, you still have to pay them every penny of that contract. I think, who knows about Pujols, if he'll stay healthy. He's been pretty healthy so far, but it is a scary proposition considering he's just coming off, not a bad year, but the worst year of his career. At least A-Rod, when he signed his 10-year contract, was coming off the best year of his career. So, yes, I would definitely be concerned as an Angels fan.
All right, so looking at the numbers, A-Rod is going to be making $29 million in 2012. Derek Jeter is going to be making $16 million. So that's right, guys. I did this in my head. $45 million is going to be spent just on that side of the infield. Now, that's larger than the opening day salaries of the entire San Diego Padres team, the entire Tampa Bay Rays team, and all the Kansas City Royals. Now, Travis, do you think that is too much to pay for what the Yankees are going to get out of them? And what do you think that the Yankees could or should do about that?
Yes, to your first question. It's total overpayment, and we knew that at the time. I mean, we thought A-Rod was coming off his awesome 2007 season when he won the MVP, hit, I think, 54 home runs when he signed the 10-year contract. Obviously, it looks like a massive overpayment now. I mean, I was saying this at the time, too. Really, 10 years, you couldn't get it down to maybe 8 or something. But anyway, obviously, and there are a lot of Yankee fans, actually, who were down on even bringing back Derek Jeter at all last season. I mean, he's coming off just a terrible year in 2010, and the fact that he was able to get $16 million a year is just insane. I mean, the Yankees partly are paying him to put butts in the seats. There is some value for that, and Derek Jeter was chasing 3,000 hits this year, and A-Rod was supposed to be chasing the all-time home run record. That doesn't seem like it's going to happen now, and Derek Jeter already broke the 3,000 hits milestone, so there's nothing to look forward to so much with him now. So in long, actually, not in short, yes, they are both making too much money. The Yankee owners just hope that they bring back a fair amount of publicity and fans and merchandise and memorabilia sales to make it a little more worth it. Sorry, I forgot the second part of your question.
No, man, you're good. What could the Yankees do about the overpayment there?
Well, if it gets so bad, it's not going to get. Derek Jeter's going to retire a Yankee, I think, after 2 more years. But A-Rod obviously has 6 more years, so there's a lot more that he could go downhill in 6 than 2 years. So it is possible if A-Rod is just so bad that the Yankees think they don't want him even on the roster anymore. It's possible they could cut him and have to pay the remainder of his salary, or hope that he could be picked up by another team if the Yankees are willing to eat some of his salary, a significant portion. But it doesn't seem likely. I mean, the Yankees have the kind of money, the luxury to be able to cut a player like that if he's just that horrible. But I don't really see it happening, especially with the frugality of the new owners. They want to get the payroll down to only $189 million in 2 years' time.
Now, do you think that they're going to stay under that $189 million mark?
No. No, I think there are some good pitchers. They're going to hit the free agent market next season. Cole Hamels, right now, Matt Cain are both going to be free agents at the end of this season. And so I see the Yankees handing out another long-term contract for one of those guys. I don't think they're going to be able to do it. They're going to try, but ultimately, no. I mean, I think it's in the Steinbrenner's blood. They prefer to win than to save money. But, you never can be sure with new owners, and that's what the Yankees are finding out about now. The Steinbrenner brothers. We're still not quite sure. Are they more committed to winning or more committed to making money?
Now, I haven't been able to post anything about this here on the show quite yet, so it may be a surprise for some people who haven't been following baseball too closely, but Jorge Posada retired. Now, Travis, were you happy to see Jorge Posada retire as a Yankee?
Yes, it was nice to see him retire Yankee. I didn't want to see him try to struggle through another season wearing a different uniform. It would have been kind of embarrassing, frankly. So I'm glad he went out as a Yankee. He's one of the best Yankee catchers of all time. He's probably in the top 5 behind Bill Dickey, Yogi Berra, guys like that. But he's up there, and he might have his number retired by the Yankees one day. And I liked him as a player. He played hard. He was one of the better. I mean, if you don't think that he ever did performance-enhancing drugs, then which we believe about Piazza and Pudge Rodriguez now, then he might be the best hitting catcher of the last 15 years. So he's got that going for him. And so, yes, it was nice to see him retire a Yankee, and he'll get his day, probably be Jorge Posada Day sometime this season at the stadium.
Because of the time Posada retired, though, everybody was kind of wondering, whether or not Posada was Hall of Fame material. What do you think? And also, what do you think about some of the Yankee players who were on the 2012 ballot, like Bernie Williams and also Don Mattingly?
Well, I'd have to say no on Bernie Williams and Posada. I'm very on the fence about Don Mattingly. I kind of think he should be in the Hall of Fame. I feel like if Jim Rice is in the Hall of Fame, I think Don Mattingly should. Jim Rice got in apparently because he was very feared. Apparently, that's what people said. If all you have to do is be feared as a hitter, then Mattingly was one of the most feared hitters for a good 5-year stretch in the 80s. He won an MVP. He was one of the best defensive first basemen. I've ever seen. He had a great all-around game. I mean, it's unfortunate for his back problems, which derailed his career. If not for those, I think he would have been a lock for the Hall of Fame. But I think he compares favorably to some of the lesser Hall of Famers, and so I don't think he will actually ever make it, but I hope he does one day.
Now, last question. We'll make this kind of fun here. Who is your favorite Yankee player and why?
I'd have to go with. It's a tough one. I love Don Mattingly. Actually, I'd probably go with, at this point, Paul O'Neill. I grew up watching him. I loved the way he hit. I loved the way he played. I mean, a lot of fans of other teams I hear didn't like him. He was always upset or angry about something, but that's what I loved as a fan. He cared about the game and the outcome, and every single at-bat, like, it meant the world to him, and that's what some of us feel like, too. Sometimes you see these players, they strike out, they pop up, whatever, and they don't show any emotion, and we're sitting watching the game, deeply invested in it, and these guys are showing no emotion. It was nice to see a guy who actually really, really cared and really worked hard at the game. Actually going back to Don Mattingly in the Hall of Fame, I was just looking it up now. His OPS plus is 1 point lower than Jim Rice's, who is in the Hall of Fame, and Mattingly was a superior defender at first base, whereas Jim Rice was stuck in Fenway in left field for his entire career. So when you throw in the defense, I think Mattingly was a better player than Jim Rice. They didn't have the longevity of him, but I think he was better overall in his prime than Rice was.
Well, Paul O'Neill is a very good choice. But time's up. Video is finishing up here in the background. Travis, thank you again so much for being on the show. We got to have you back here to talk Yankees again down the road. Now, everybody, you got to go over to Pinstripe Alley, especially if you're a Yankees fan. Just take a look at everything, kind of weigh in, comment on it, just like you do with me. I appreciate it a lot. I know Travis appreciates it a lot. Feel free to subscribe to this channel here if you have not already. Follow me on Facebook and Twitter and all that jazz. You guys know what to do here. But again, thank you so much for watching. Thanks again, Travis, as always. I hope you guys have a good one.